it's a poor job, and this falls within your background of telling the story, because you don't tell it once. It's repeated over and over, and it has to be recorded, cataloged, archives. And then you have to bring it back up. You got to show the pictures. Like, where's the suit when we held up the Constitution papers? Where's that flag? You have to invest in all of that. But when your priorities are solely single focus on today's issues, you can lose sight of the storytelling. And in previous years, let's say we became independent in the 70s, that was not the thing to do. You focus on what needed to happen. People needed schools, they needed clinics and hospitals, they need water, they need housing, and you went about the business of doing that. But the story of the Bahamas is rarely told in its entirety, and is rarely told at varying levels to meet people where they are.
Yes.
So that's the challenge. So the story I have received about the Bahamas, because of my family, is quite different than someone else, because of the people that walk through the house, or the exposure that my family was fortunate to have. And so I have a completely different viewpoint. I mean, my grandma was American who came to the Bahamas when there was nothing. But she died a Bahamian. She loved the country so much. She got angry at Bahamians when they didn't see the possibilities, because they were stuck in the mindset of today. She was beyond that. But if you don't tell a story like that, it's hard to grow that mindset. But if I heard it every day of my life. And so my perception of the Bahamas is greater than what is actually on paper, or what any one single story anybody else says about the Bahamas.
Let's hear the others on this same thing, because the Bahamas is not only about the infrastructure, not only about the buildings, it's about the people. It's the people who make us who we are. Can I have somebody who can chime in on that? Mr. Saunders?
I'll certainly chime in on that. I think that's the most beautiful part of the Bahamas, in addition to the natural beauties that we have. I think the people is what makes us. And I look at the people of the Bahamas as being just incredibly strong. I know we talk about a lot of different things about, the infrastructure growth and whether we're developing or not. And I just find the people of the Bahamas just to be incredibly strong. And then they're strong in so many ways, because, whilst what I do in the States, and I do well here, but when I go back home, it's expensive. It's very expensive, and I know what the average income is in the Bahamas. But Bahamians are able to turn 50 cents in to stretch that very long, to be able to enjoy that quality of life that they do have. But I still find it, as a Bahamian, amazing to see what we're able to do with so little at times. And I think a lot of that comes back from our roots and how we grew up and our family structures and what have you. But, as a country, besides, again, the natural beauty, I think, the Bahamian people, for me, listening to the accents and listening to the storytelling and all the different things that we do, is what brings me back home, every year, what brings my kids back home every year, and why they love, them, my kids who were born in the US, still consider themselves, Bahamians, because they've been coming home for such a long time that they're like, this is part of who I am. I consider myself Bahamian. And to hear my little, American kids say that, I'm Bahamian in school and what have you, it just, makes me very proud, and it makes them proud to be able to go back home and to be able to talk to the family members and talk to the people, and just to be engrossed with, the Bahamian culture as it is.
Dr. Walker, and I'd love to speak with you further, as well as Mr. Saunders. So hopefully we can exchange contacts, even if it's through the council. But I'm thoroughly enjoying the conversation, and like Mr. Saunders mentioned, the accents are still here.
Bahamians are very resilient people.
Yeah.
And, when I think of my great-grandmother, Suki Dixon, growing up in Baintown, cooking outside, making coconut tarts and things like that, outside in a coal stove. I mean, those memories are so vivid that, I mean, it's no way I can forget that experience.
Right.
Yeah.
And coming to the United States is a whole different experience in life. But the thing is, and I understand, and that's always the question is, when you come, is opportunities that everyone, the people working, all the folks who are to work in the straw market, to send their kids off to school to be doctors and lawyers, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And they do that, they make that sacrifice in order that their kids can get exposed, going to England when they themselves have never even thought about getting on a plane.
And to think about how much money that they was making to be able to do that.
But it was they in their minds, that's the way they saw it. When I thought about being one of 9 children, and my father driving a taxi cab, and my mother having a stall out front of the house, and then she's franchising her stall in front of Bo's supermarket and Super Value on that. I mean, that type of experience is just mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Of what people had to do in order to keep their, all 9 of us in private schools. They're in the Bahamas. And I'm saying that there's no way, that's impossible. And people struggle here. They're making $250,000 and still struggling with keeping kids in private schools, etc. But so when it comes to resiliency, the strength that we draw from our parents and our grandparents is so amazing, because they were truly strong, resilient people. And I think that's what makes us Bahamians, because we know how to survive.
Yes.
But I would challenge us on that, because I don't usually say that we're strong. I think that's something that's a human spirit, and many other cultures and groups and countries say that, right? I like to say we're bigoted. Because
we had that too.
Because bigoting means you're going to survive and thrive despite what others may say. Yeah. I mean, have you thought about it? That, people talk about the Bermuda Triangle. We're the only country inside of it, and we're walking around like, hey, what's going on? Y'all good? We're good. Yeah. What's happening? So I think we have to reframe how we even describe ourselves. I don't even use words that other people use to describe themselves.
Yeah.
I just like, we're biggity. We might not have $1 to our name.
Right.
But you won't know that.
Yeah,
you will not know that.
No,
right?
No.
Because I know someone I could call, whether it be the straw vendor, because there was a time they were very powerful. They did get the pendulum before anybody else, right? Right. I can call somebody if I need something done. It'll get done.
Yeah. And they always had some cash. They always had money.
So we have to embrace how we are, and also embrace how we talk about ourselves. Because when you start using words that everybody else uses, then we're not different. And we are a distinct branch of the African and European diaspora. Because from both sides, we different. We call white Bahamians Conky Joe. What other country got another name that is universal in the country? Nobody even bats an eye.
No, when you hear Conky Joe, everyone knows.
Everybody knows. It's not a fight. It's not an argument. It is what it is. So I think we just got to appreciate those little things. Yeah. But it's those little things that build a nation. I don't think we're a country. We're something unnamed. Mm-hmm. Everybody else is a country. Y'all could be a country.
Well, and that's why we can go anywhere in the world and thrive. Because we understand what that means. Coming from the Bahamas, we understand, like you say, we're big enough to know that we can rise to the top. And that's the thing that, and that's what I was trying to get back to, with knowing in the database that's being built up. When you need a top architect in the Bahamas, you know there's a Bahamian out there. If you need a college professor in the Bahamas, do you reach out to that person, or you go to Canada and reach out for someone who's in the Canadian educational system? This type of information being gathered, where there's a Dr. Walker, there's a consultant, there's engineers, and that's all over the world.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean,
That
Yeah.
should be part of the database to be the first one contacted,
Yeah.
Yeah.
especially
Yeah.
when there are fees involved, to say we need a consultant to come in and look at this, and
Yeah.
Bahamian should be at the top of the list.
I
But
definitely agree with that.
every time I go home and I'm out, you know, west, either Live Key or Old Fort Bay or something like that, the amount of expats that's in those areas is crazy. All right, and those expats who are there, that you know, that companies in the Bahamas are paying for their kids to go to the best schools, for them to live in the best neighborhoods, and to have a quality of life that some Bahamians can only dream of. Yeah, and when I talk about that pipeline, I mean, there are Bahamians that will come and work. You know, we don't need all of that. I mean, some of them we use, but you know, but certainly we don't need all of that, and we are just as qualified as those people who are there.
Right.
And yet we don't know how to tap into that market and to get access to those opportunities, because I mean, I'd like to say that money is not a factor, but money is a factor to a certain extent, because I'm not independently wealthy yet. But you know, to live home, to buy a house in the Bahamas right now, if you want to live in a nice neighborhood, it ain't cheap. The interest rates are ridiculous. All
But
right?
that's a statement that can be applied to a lot of areas in the United States. So let's. We gotta be. We have to be.
No, but not even
mindful.
close.
We have to be mindful of that.
But here's facts to back it up, right? The average salary we're talking about for a Bahamian, right? It was what, $18,000 a year?
And
right?
what is the equivalent to the US dollar, though?
No, but I can still move to Atlanta and buy a house for $100,000 and be able to survive, right? The problem is, it is for a lot of Bahamians, especially if you want to live in Nassau, right? The interest rate to get a loan, what, 12% on interest rate? If you're buying a house for $500,000 or $800,000, because none of us going to want to go back home and live in some of the areas that may be unsafe for us and our families. We're going to want to keep the quality of life that we have here. And that comes at a cost. I mean, I don't want to make money I love home. And the reason why I'm talking about this is because I plan to move back home. All right, I've already started the process. And I want to go back home. But these are some of the things that I'm dealing with as a Bahamian that's living abroad, that's planning to go back home. And I'm trying to figure out, how do I juggle all of these things that really do matter? Because I still have bills to pay. I still have a quality of life that I want to live. I still have kids that I want to be able to take care of and make sure that they have something in their future, you know, for them. So these are really, really hard things, because there are places that I can move in the US that I can drop my expenses by 50% and increase my savings, you know, by that amount. But if I go home,
and in some areas of the country, that would be undesirable. That's all I'm saying. Try to figure out, what are you going to trade off? Because you can't do a 1-to-1. That's the difference. You can't do a 1-to-1 to move back and think you're going to get what's in the United States. That's just not going to happen.
But I mean, I think
Dr. Walker and Mr. Saunders, I think we will bring this to an end. Clearly, there's an opportunity.
We're solving all the problems right now.
Through this conversation, but it will not be during this session. We certainly welcome all of you. We are happy to have had you on. It's been a very stimulating conversation.
Yes.
As I said, Dr. Walker, Mr. Sanders, Honorable Icadaro, Mr. Smith, thank you very much for your participation. Clearly, our moderator had some issues, and I'm bringing the session to a close. Thank you very much. And I also want to take this opportunity to thank the team in here that assisted with pulling this together, particularly Ashley Cargill, who would have spoken with most of you or all of you at some point over the last several weeks. So thank you very much. And we certainly will reach out to you in sometime in the near future. Thanks again.